I was watching the latest news on TV when my wife returned home late from work. "Boyd, you won't believe who hired me to protect them today." "David Bridges," I answered. "How do you know?" "They show you on the news." I pointed to the TV on the wall. She looked at the TV, and there she was. Of course, there was an old photo that must have been taken from the company's website, but there it was. She was the latest addition to David Bridges' legal team. This didn't surprise me. She was one of the best celebrity defense lawyers in the country before I demanded that she stop working 100 hours a week. I'm not some Cro-Magnon guy who doesn't want his wife to work. I just wanted to see her more than once a month. It was 2 years ago. She defended a senator accused of murdering one of his staff. I knew he was guilty as sin, and I was sure that she, too, was not sure of his innocence. But this did not stop her from going through all the evidence for an incredibly long time to find even the slightest hint of something that could be used. In the end, she got the jury to let the bastard go. The district attorney decided not to recharge him, which shocked the entire country. On the third of 3 days in a row, while I was sleeping in her office during this process, I served her with the divorce papers. Finally, she asked what she could do to avoid losing me. I advised her to quit her job. Even now, in our 30s, we have more money than we can spend. Some of it came from her clients, but I also made good money as a radio talk show host. I have a syndicated political talk show that is in the top 10 nationwide and #1 in several markets. She agreed to reduce her time as a consultant, and also agreed to finally have children. I held our son Mikey in my arms as she watched the hosts talk about her client and whether she could help him get away with it. I hated that term, getting away with it. I never suspected her of having affairs. She cared too much about her reputation to cheat on me and never risked having bad news written about her. My problem was that she simply worked too much. You may have noticed that I didn't say that she loves me too much to cheat on me. I didn't believe in this. Oh, I'm sure she loves me, but more than anything, she loves her job. After starting out in consulting, she became a favorite on television talk shows when the topics required legal analysis. It happened that she was shown on TV every day, and wow, she loves it. "Are you upset?" she asked when the commercial was turned on. "What do you think?" I chuckled. "Mikey needs to be changed." I carried my son to his room and left her, not knowing how to behave, which was good. I liked keeping her on her toes. She is a control freak, and I was happy when I could throw a wrench into her gears. She decided to follow me, and while I was trying to change the diaper, she said, "Everything will not be the same as before. I'm just part of the team, not the leader." I shrugged. "That's it, baby. All fresh and dry." Mikey laughed when I tickled him, which made me smile. I farted into his chubby belly with my mouth, making him giggle even more. "Boyd, this is just a tax evasion case. They only need me to help select the jury." "Of course," I said, walking past her back into the living room. "You're overreacting," she countered. "No, I don't think so," I objected childishly. "This will be very important for us, just the fame of the name." "Not us," I snapped, putting Mikey in the playpen. "What?" "Not us, Alicia. It's good for you. I have a feeling this will be the end of us." She screamed. "Bullshit." I shook my head and took my keys from the rack. "Dinner is in the oven, warming up, and I'll go to the bar. David Bridges is the former governor of our home state. As soon as he announced his candidacy for the next presidential election, dirt poured on him from all sides. After all, he was charged with failing to report millions of dollars in tax returns that he allegedly received for some unknown reason from some foreign company, as well as a bunch of election interference charges related to his last run for governor. The process could be interesting. I just didn't want my wife to practice law again. I lit my Davidoff Churchill cigar in a private room at a nice cigar lounge next to my studio. There were a few smokers there, but without saying hello, we left each other alone unless we received an invitation to join someone. Even though I'm a celebrity, almost everyone is used to me being there several times a week. The novelty of Boyd Baxter radio personality being a regular wore off pretty quickly. "Boyd, help yourself to my scotch." A gentleman I recognized but didn't remember his name called out to me. Thank you. I waved my hand and poured myself a generous portion from the decanter that stood on the table in front of him. I saw the news. Thought you could use a good belt, he added. Yes, you noticed correctly, I said, clinking glasses with him in the air, and walked to the most deserted corner of the room. He took a long drag and exhaled deeply. I briefly wondered if I had overreacted, but came to the conclusion that I had not. I filed for divorce because she worked too much when she had big cases, and he agreed to take her back only after promising to quit. I didn't feel guilty for setting such a condition. She had a decade of successful work at the highest level under her belt, and I wanted to have children while we still could. And then she took on another big case without asking my opinion? Yes, it was a slap in the face that I did not expect. Hell, if she asked, I might agree, but probably not. I would still like to be involved in the decision-making. The TV on the other side of the room caught my attention. The TV showed Alicia again with a big smile. I saw a picture behind her and realized that it was in our living room. I was hoping Mikey would start crying. She devoured these presenters, manipulated them into believing she was answering their questions without giving them anything close to what they wanted. It was masterful. Then the host, who was my golf buddy, asked, "Will your husband refile documents for divorce?" "Sorry?" Alicia asked in shock. "Well, the condition for ending the divorce proceedings with your husband was that you would no longer take clients to court proceedings. This seems to violate your agreement." I sent him a text message. "I owe you a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle for that joke. I assure you, my husband fully supports my career decisions." She was excited and I loved it. "No, I don't support it," I said out loud, making the guys who knew that she was my wife laugh. A few seconds later, my phone rang. "Boyd, this is Dana Collins from The Times. Can I ask you a few questions and get your reaction to your wife breaking your agreement?" "Hello, Dana. It's been too long. We should meet for lunch soon, and maybe I'll invite you to the show again." She answered, "With pleasure. Will you answer my questions?" "No, but I will make a statement. Let's..." I am completely stunned. This will probably be the title of my article. Do you have anything to add? Maybe as a backstory? Look, she hasn't done anything yet that could bring up old problems. We are happy in love. Thank you, Boyd. See you soon. Dana is a true star in the news world. I invited her on my show several times to do her boss a favor. We have a mutually beneficial agreement with him. The phone rang again, and I turned it off. I knew that otherwise I would have no peace. Media vultures are circling. Moreover, I am one of them. Damn cannibals. "It won't be the same," Alicia said as I walked into our bedroom. She looked damn good in a floor-length black satin nightgown. The slit on the left ended mid-thigh, and the lace breast cups did nothing to hide her pink areolas. It was not intended for sleeping. "It doesn't matter whether it happens or not," I said, trying not to look at her. "You know the stakes. Now everything is different. We have Mikey." I laughed. "If you think the fact that we have a son will stop me from wanting a wife who doesn't put her career first, then you're in for a bummer. If you go back to your old habits, you'll be out the door. Baby, we've gone too far. I do not want to quarrel. Alicia, the time to discuss this was before you got the job. We are now in the consequences phase. Everything will be fine with us. You'll see. Now go to bed. I want to show you how much I love you." I knew she would be furious the next day when she saw my comments in the Times. But I decided to take advantage of the fact that I had a sexy wife while I still could. She knelt down in front of me. Less than 5 minutes later, we found ourselves on the bed. I gave her everything she wanted, as always. "You were great. That was great." Before falling asleep, she managed to tell me that she loved me. I wonder how she will treat me in the morning. "Oh, you son of a bitch," she screamed when I walked into the kitchen the next morning. "Hit on the sly?" I interrupted her. "This is true. You shouldn't have told them that," she shouted. I shrugged. "It is done. They'll be talking about this all day, Boyd." I laughed. "At least they won't talk about your client for a change." Her client was featured on news programs for weeks before and every day after the indictment. I kissed her on the cheek and decided to have coffee and breakfast on the way to work to avoid her anger. I wondered how long it would be before she started working 16 hours a day again. "We haven't finished discussing this yet," she shouted at my back. I knew she was right. I got to my studio and it was chaotic. They worked with me, a young student who answered phone calls, a sound engineer, an adjustment technician, and a producer. I prefer to conduct my own investigations, so I don't have a team of people who read the news for me, like some anchors. Oh my God, Boyd. Today the phone is just ringing off the hook. I handed her the coffee and said, "Turn off the ringer, missy. Let them go to voicemail, and you can filter out the important calls so I can call you back." "Thank you, boss. This will help." I entered my office and saw that the producer was already waiting for me. "Good morning, Boyd?" Rose asked. "Just wonderful, Rosie. What do we have for today?" "It's hard to avoid the Bridges story, especially since you are now involved in it. It's not me who's involved, it's my wife." "The same. Call Dana Collins on the show. We'll talk about it and I'll let her lead me to some comments, but let her know that this is not an interview." "Yes, I read her article this morning. I swear this woman has a thing for your wife." I laughed. "No, she is not indifferent to me. I once overheard her talking to someone and used it to my advantage." "Don't lead the poor girl by the nose, Boyd. I expected this city to chew it up and spit it out a couple of years ago. Hey, never underestimate a farmer's daughter. She's tough as nails." "Okay, I'll call her and make an arrangement." "Thank you, Rose. Also, see if Dan Naranya can come. I liked what he did to my wife last night on his show." "It's good to have friends, isn't it?" "You know it." "Okay, Boyd, you live in 5432. Rose pointed at me, and the scoreboard lit up in the air. "Good afternoon, radio listeners. I'm your handsome host, Boyd Baxter, and I'm joined in the studio by Dana Collins from The Times. Hello, Dana." "Hello, Boyd. I'm happy to be here today, especially considering what's going on with your wife." She smirked, and I shook my head. She put on a short skirt and crossed her legs, giving me a wonderful view of the top of them in stockings. I love the look of the beautiful legs, especially those covered in black nylon. "Yes, I thought you would mention it. Yes, my wife has agreed to join David Bridges' legal team as a jury consultant. She is no longer involved in representing clients in the courtroom." "Jury consultant?" Dana asked. "Is that what she told you?" I stared at her. She dangled her shoe from her sexy foot and smiled. "It seems your wife didn't tell you the whole truth. According to my sources in the Bridges camp, she is the new face of their legal team and will be the first chair at the defense table." "I don't care what anonymous sources say." "I never use them," I said with a shrug. She laughed. "That's because you use articles written by people like me to inform your radio show." "Wow," I said hotly. "I am not a journalist and have never pretended to be one. I'm just hosting a show in which I express my opinion on the news of the day." She smiled and said, "And today's news is that your wife came out of retirement and lied to you." "Let's move on to calls," I said, so as not to dig myself even deeper. I could no longer control the conversation. Damn legs. "Let's take the first line," I said, and tried not to look at Dana when she crossed her legs in the other direction. "I didn't lie to you." "I'm just a jury consultant," my wife said defensively through the speaker phone line. "Well, who is it if not my beloved wife, Alicia? Hi, dear. Today I will be home on time. We'll have roast pork for dinner." Dana joined in. "Hello, Mrs. Baxter. You know very well that my last name is Taylor. My wife didn't take my last name when we got married. She had already built a reputation for herself and maintained it for professional reasons." "That's right," Dana said. "Mrs. Taylor." "Anyway," Alicia said, "stop making things up. I'm only on the legal team to help with jury selection." "You say that," Dana answered. "Okay, ladies, enough. Alicia will talk to you at home." "But..." "Okay, next caller." "Well, it was a damn nightmare," I said after the show ended. "I think everything went great," Dana said, putting on her shoes. Halfway through the show, she took them off to tease me. Bitch. You owe me, I grumbled. She laughed. How about I invite you to dinner? Forget about your pork roast. Her look scared me to death. I knew she liked me, but it was like I was bait in the water and she was a hungry shark. Another time, Dana. See you. I got out of there before I did something incredibly stupid and went to dinner with the stunning red-haired beast. When I got home, I coated the roast with oil, mixed the seasonings, and rubbed them all over the meat. 30 minutes later, I slid the pan into the oven. Mikey fed him dinner and opened a beer. I couldn't believe it, but I was tormented by the question of who to believe, my wife or Dana's anonymous source, and it was driving me crazy. A little over 3 hours later, the table was set. A lovely bottle of Chardonnay sat in a bucket of ice, and the perfectly cooked roast sat on the baking sheet, ready to be carved. Alicia wasn't home, but so far she was only half an hour late. I was eating my salad while the clock ticked, and then she showed up an hour late. I still don't have any call or SMS. I put the roast back in the oven to keep it warm, and made myself a martini, an hour and a half late. I fought the urge to call her. There was a battle ahead, and I had to emerge victorious. I turned off the oven 2.5 hours late and went out for dinner. The text message arrived 3 minutes after the steak was served. Where are you? I hung up the phone, sighed, and took another bite of my perfectly seared steak. There's something about steak cooked at a very high temperature that makes me a happy person. She won't ruin it. 5 minutes later, she texted me again with a question mark. I scooped up some creamed spinach and moaned as I felt the taste on my tongue. That evening, they succeeded. Another 2 minutes passed and my phone rang. I sent the call to voicemail because it pisses her off when people do this to her. I felt like I was winning a battle that she didn't know about. I'm an adult, aren't I? With my steak finished, my wine glass empty, and the last bits of spinach scooped from the bottom of my plate, I ignored the third call. It was 9:30. When I pulled up to the garage of the house, she was standing in the doorway with her hands folded. I assumed she was upset and tried to put on a frown. Where are you? And why are you ignoring my calls? She screamed. I laughed. You know the answer to these questions. Did you even bother to take the roast out of the oven? I walked into the kitchen and saw a roast on a baking sheet in the oven. You haven't eaten anything. Wait, what did you eat at work? Pizza? Chinese food? Chinese. Look, it won't always be like this. I don't care what you did. It is important to me that you knew that I was preparing dinner for us and did not call me to say that you would be late at work. Sorry. You know how it happens when... She stopped. I answered, yes, I know how it happens. Because of this, I filed for divorce. Remember, you always forget that you have a husband at home. Only now you also have a child at home. Did you even notice that Mikey isn't home? I thought he was with you. Wait, and where is he? Now you notice, right? You're a terrible wife when you're busy, but it turns out you're also a terrible mother. She slapped me. I rubbed my cheek and left the kitchen. Boyd, wait, sorry. I continued walking and walked out the front door. She continued calling to me as I walked across the lawn to my neighbor's house, who was babysitting Mikey. He was sleeping in the playpen she had set up for her baby in the living room and didn't move while I carried him to my house. Alicia was silent, holding out her hands, asking for Mikey. It's not fair. You should have told me that he's at a neighbor's house. I could spend time with him before he woke up. Exactly. It's not fair. Of course, we have a small problem that you didn't tell me when you were going to be home. I was angry with you. You and that bitch were rude to me when I called your show. This is different. Just don't call my show. I don't like surprises, and we should always be on the same page. We must be husband and wife. She lied, Boyd. I'm not running this case. Time will tell, right? I went to bed. Ever heard of James Anderson? Dana asked me the next day. She stopped me in the parking lot as I was walking to my car after the show. I felt like I was in deep throat with Woodward and Bernstein. No, but should I? I answered. He is the best behavior analyst in the country. Worked on almost all high-profile jury trials over the past 3 years. And? And my source said David Bridges just hired him as a jury consultant. And what? So, what is your wife for, then? What are you trying to do, Dana? Seriously, are you trying to drive a wedge between me and my wife? She shrugged and replied, just asking questions, Boyd. This is exactly what I do. Then ask someone else and put it in your fucking article. I opened the door, climbed inside, and slammed it. The blow landed on my shoulder, causing me to cry out in pain. Just great. She laughed and waved as I drove away. I noticed shimmering, flesh-colored stockings in the rearview mirror. At 6 o'clock, I gave Mike his dinner and made myself a sandwich from the leftover roast, which was quite tasty. Alicia was late again, and again I didn't receive a text or call. An hour later, she broke into the house through the garage door. Sorry, I was busy and couldn't call. When were you tied up? I asked. What do you mean? I mean, you weren't physically tied up, right? You were at a meeting with other lawyers or reading some law book. At any time in these scenarios, you could have picked up your phone and texted me. Boyd, I apologized. Apologizing won't work this time, Alicia. You need to spend time with your son before I put him to bed. I left the room and headed to my den in the basement. I expected her to follow me with little Mikey, but she didn't. This disappointed me because I was nervous and looking forward to a fight. During halftime of the football match, I went to the kitchen to get a bottle of water. In fact, I was conducting reconnaissance regarding my wife. She was eating ice cream and reading something on her tablet when she realized I was nearby and looked up. We need to talk about this, Boyd. There's nothing to talk about. You returned to work and again plunged into your old problems. Damn. If you're not lying to me, you were only supposed to be working on preparing for jury selection. She looked away, and for the first time did not deny that she was lying about the extent of her involvement. I continued, well, that's it then. I'm not going to play second fiddle to your work anymore. I will update my divorce papers and refile them this week. Damn it, Boyd, we won't get divorced. I repeat to you that everything is not the same as before. Exactly. 2 days at work, and 2 out of 2 you're late and don't call. It's like déjà vu. This is just the beginning. You'll see, everything will be different. I have a lot to catch up on for the sake of business. Catch up on what? You were supposed to advise them on how to select juries. You don't understand, Boyd. A lot depends on this. Yes? Well, okay. I turned and walked away. She rushed after me and put her hand on my chest. I promise that everything will not be the same as before. Prove it. She hugged me and started sobbing. Like a fool, I decided to give her a chance. This went on for 3 days. It was a beautiful Sunday morning, and I was playing hide-and-seek with Mikey when she walked into the room. I need to go to the office for a few hours. I'll be home by noon. What about church and breakfast like we do every week? I asked, and she did not notice that there was disappointment in my voice. We'll go to lunch instead. We can go to that Mexican restaurant in the botanical garden that we like. Meet me there at noon, I said, provoking her to be late. She kissed Mikey, then me, said goodbye, and left the room. I looked at Mikey and said, well, baby, what are you going to do, huh? He chuckled, and I returned to our game. Mikey and I were sitting in a restaurant at noon, and I ordered a quesadilla, stuffed tortillas, and Sprite as an appetizer. Mikey happily chewed on these small, fluffy cakes that melted in his mouth. It struck 12:30, and the waitress asked, do you have any news from your partners, or would you like to place an order? No, just a check, please. The baby begins to worry. The restaurant was crowded and many people were queuing. I realized that they wanted me to leave. She smiled and patted me on the shoulder. I understand, restless kids. I have 3 myself. She left and my phone rang. I ignored Alicia's call and she sent the following text. Already coming. I'll be there in half an hour. Really, Mikey? I moaned. What should I do with her? No wonder he didn't answer. I typed my answer. I won't be there. I turned off the phone, paid the check, and picked Mikey up to go to the car. It's time to act. I can't keep letting her lie to me and basically walk over me. She can't make me look like the same fool I was the first time. Of course there is a difference. Mikey. But with her work schedule, I'm confident I can get custody of him. A few minutes later, I walked through my kitchen and threw my keys on the table. I put Mikey on the floor and he, like a wind-up car, rushed towards the family room where his toys were. While I was following him, the home phone rang, but I didn't pay attention to it. He loves being in his playpen, and when he walked into the family room, he did pull-ups on the playpen. Well, someone wants to play in their children's prison, huh? Okay, buddy. As I was sitting him down, the phone rang again. Mom will be angry, won't she? I asked. He chuckled and grabbed his look and talked toy. Mickey, someone said a long time ago, never interfere with your enemy when he is making a mistake. Mommy keeps making mistakes. All I heard from him were the words from the look and talk toy. The cow says, moo. Have fun, buddy, I said before tickling his side, causing him to laugh. I opened a beer, sat down on the couch next to my son, and turned on my cell phone. There were several voicemails from my wife, and I deleted them without listening, confident that she would repeat herself when she walked through the door. There were several messages from Dana Collins saying that we needed to talk as soon as possible. Of course, I ignored them too. Half an hour passed, and I was already drinking my second beer when she entered the kitchen. I noticed that her hair was pulled back into a ponytail, which was completely different from what it was like this morning. I raised my hand to stop her from screaming, which was clearly directed in my direction. Mikey is sleeping. I nodded towards the playpen, where he was snoring like an angel. He should be in his crib. I agreed, and let her take it to the bedroom. While she was doing this, I got into the car and headed to the cigar salon. Yes, I know. I was a weakling for running away from the quarrel, but in my opinion, at that moment, the quarrel was unnecessary. My marriage is almost over. She chose work over us. I was reading an article about bridges with my back to the door when I heard a voice behind me. You're not hard to find, Boyd. If I tried to hide, Dana, I wouldn't be here. She walked in front of me to one of the leather chairs on the other side of the small table. Have you tried this one yet? She asked and showed me the cigar. The selection was good. No, but he has a high rating. Yes, that's what Nick said. Nick is the owner of the salon and is always quick to make recommendations, especially a beautiful woman. That explained how she ended up in the locked break room. Dana took the lighter from me and caught me looking at her legs. Naked for a change, they still looked amazing. She must have put on lotion recently because they were shiny and looked damp. You're too easy, Boyd, she teased and crossed her legs the other way. I took a drag from my cigar and roughly blew the smoke in her direction. What do you want, Dana? I'm trying to relax here. She frowned for a moment, and there was sadness in her eyes before she said, I have bad news. It'll be front-page news tomorrow, but I wanted to let you know in person before it all blows away. She slid her phone across the table for me and grinned when I looked under her blouse. What should I look for? The video has already been selected. Just look. She took a drag from her cigar and coughed. I choked on laughter when I turned on the video on her phone. There was my wife and David Bridges kissing in the office. I threw the phone on the table and sat back down. Sorry, Boyd. I'm really sorry, but it's only going to get worse. Why would you be sorry? You have the article of the year, and since when do you care about collateral damage? It has never been so close to me, she whispered. I sighed. Do you know what the worst of all this is? She shook her head, and I tried not to cry. I had to look away. It didn't even take that asshole a week to get to her. He also had affairs with 2 other women on his legal team. I shrugged and took another drag, as if it matters. I was going to get a divorce anyway. This simply eliminates any chance of getting her back. A smile flashed on Dana's face, then quickly faded. I think she would have liked the end of my marriage. She must have thought this would give her the opportunity to come in and comfort my broken heart. Send me this video, please. I can't do this, Boyd. This article is not yet... To hell with your article, I shouted and slammed my hand on the table. This is my fucking marriage. I stood up and waved my hand in silent apology to several guys in the room. Okay, she said. retreating without a fight. Just don't advertise it publicly, I snorted. He went to his locker and pulled out a bottle of 25-year-old Macallan single malt whiskey. If there was ever a time to drink it, it was now. I poured 2 healthy glasses and sat back. Dana took one without asking, and I lit the cigar again. "Thank you," she said, taking a sip. I could tell she didn't drink much scotch by the way she tried to hide her grimace. Honestly, I never thought that she would cheat on me. I always thought that she wouldn't risk her reputation like that. It's about him, you know. He is a famous hunter. We'll just never get any hard evidence. No, it's her fault. For her to have sex with him in his office for a week? No, this is what she was looking for. By the way, where did you get this video from? Well, installing a camera like that is a criminal offense. So let's assume it wasn't me who did it, okay? Let's say it was an anonymous source and leave everything as it is. The grin gave it away, but I wasn't going to pursue the topic. Of course, as you say. I turned on my phone to save the video to the cloud, and then I received a text message from Alicia. "You need to come home so we can talk." I groaned and typed, "There is no need to say anything. We're done. You can have as much fun with Bridges as you want. Have fun with the press tomorrow." I turned off the phone and watched as Dana threw her head back and took a long drag from her cigar. There is something sexy about a woman smoking a cigar. Not as sexy as her legs, but still. "Wife?" she asked. I nodded and took a sip of whiskey, saying, "I wish her good luck in her meeting with the press tomorrow. She will think that you came to me with this story. I am sure that you will testify that I was not your anonymous source. Tomorrow will be a terrible day for you," she warned. "Yes, I know. Either way, I'm a complete mess, so I'll do what I do every day, chew gum and kick ass. Do you have enough enthusiasm? Look how you yourself describe the trashy films of the 80s. She laughed and said, "It's a cult classic, man." After another hour of small talk, my cigar was smoked. If I thought she would do it, I would have bought us a couple more just so I could keep sneaking glances at her. But it was time to leave. Buckle up, Boyd. And I meant it when I said I was sorry. You are a good guy and you don't deserve this. Yes. Well, that is. We'll talk later, perhaps. I decided to go to the hotel. I didn't want to communicate with my soon-to-be ex-wife until it became inevitable and decided that it would happen the next day. Woke up at 6 and turned on the news. The show had already started and was being shown on all channels. I made a cup of hotel coffee and went to take a shower. I went to the store and bought clothes and toiletries for my hotel stay. I had no idea if or when I would go home, so I prepared to spend a week here. The hot water was nice, even without decent pressure, but it didn't matter. Water pressure was the least of my problems. After my shower, I turned on my phone and ignored all the text messages, sending a message to Rose. "I won't be broadcasting live today. Find a guest host or record the show." She answered, "I saw the news. Anyway, I'm really sorry." The phone rang, and, of course, it was Alicia. I ignored him and turned up the volume on the TV. The presenter said, "We have urgent news. Following up on the Times report about David Bridges' affair with his lawyer, Alicia Taylor, a video has emerged. We warn you that it is very naturalistic." I watched a video of them kissing and him groping her breasts. After that, fortunately, the video was cut off, and the co-host said, "This contradicts Governor Bridges' statement that there is nothing romantic between him and his lawyer. We reached out to Alicia Taylor for comment, but have not yet received a response. I decided to read the SMS and see what exactly my wife was justifying. What are you talking about? I won't have sex with David. Stop being an ass and come home." But those who came the next morning sang a different melody. It's a lie. We are not having an affair. Boyd, please call me. I swear to you, this is a lie. I love you. She must have been watching TV because the next message read, "We just kissed. That's it." And it was a mistake. I shook my head and answered him. "I know there's more to this video. You got caught, and we're done." She called again and again. I hung up the call and watched as the announcers gave their opinions on Bridges and his many alleged affairs. Surprisingly, they paid more attention to him and not to my future ex. which actually made me happy. I decided that the less her name was mentioned, the less mine would be mentioned. I checked my voicemail, and there were a few calls from Alicia, but the rest were from news channels wanting my comment. For a split second, I thought about going on one of the shows so they could get my commentary and leave me alone, but I knew that wouldn't happen. Ultimately, it is better to remain silent. I did what all aggrieved husbands do, divided our assets, canceled joint credit cards, negotiated with a lawyer to update and file paperwork. I was seeking full custody since she is no longer at home. He was confident that I had a good chance of getting at least primary custody in a cohabitation situation, and believed that evidence of infidelity could be used to avoid consultations or time limits if there were irreconcilable differences. I didn't feel good, but I felt satisfied that I had put the finishing touches on my false marriage. It's obvious that she loves her job more than she loves me, and it's more than obvious that she doesn't love me enough not to cheat on me. Good riddance. I turned on the home security system on my phone and saw her sitting on the couch with a sleeping Mikey, crying. I didn't know if she was crying because of me and the loss of our marriage, or because of the show she was making of her blessed career. I was trying to figure out how to get back at Bridges. There was a lot of public humiliation, and whatever his wife was going to do to him, none of it came from me. I felt like I had to do something to maintain my male identity. In the end, I decided that the idea was stupid. He has a whole retinue, and I just can't get close to him. And even if I could, I would eventually be caught and either shot or the crap beaten out of me. You'll just have to come to terms with karma's plans for him. Maybe he'll end up with Alicia. This will teach him. The next day continued in the same spirit, except that I was required to participate in the show. Rose acted as usual, and the office wasn't too noisy. Unless, of course, you count the 20 reporters standing in front of my building. Entering from the secure parking lot allowed me to avoid them and get to the office unharmed. Rose said, "Boyd, your friend at the Times said she wouldn't put your name in the articles if you let her come on the show again." I threw up my hands and groaned. "Are you kidding me? What the hell difference does it make? God, her presence on the show is probably even worse. I can't invite her and not talk about her article." "How are you going to avoid talking about her? This is the loudest article of the year. This is my show. I can talk or not talk about what I want." "Of course," she said, rolling her eyes. "Until the sponsors are upset that you are acting like a coward." She's right, of course. I would get calls from the parent company and sometimes directly from sponsors if they were sufficiently irritated. Such is life in radio. "Okay, Dana can come, but tell her to be polite. I have a long memory." "Oh, if you give her a chance, she'll be very nice to you, Boyd." She laughed and left. It's not easy with Dana on the show. I can't control the narrative, and I certainly can't control her reporter's language. She will pressure me and dance around the topic of my wife until I indirectly give her the answer to every question I don't want to answer. An hour later, I put on my headphones and watched with a smile as Dana did the same. The only difference is that she crossed her legs, causing the bottom of her skirt to ride up another couple of centimeters, but I don't have a skirt on. I saw a notepad in front of her and asked, "Is this a list of questions?" She giggled sweetly and replied, "Of course not. I wouldn't dare come on your show with a list of questions." Rosa began the countdown to the broadcast, and Dana continued, "Besides, I know much more than you. I'm no longer interested in you. Well, professionally, that is." 3, 2, 1. The opening music started, and I took a deep breath. "Good afternoon again, radio listeners," I began. "Your handsome host, Boyd Baxter, is here, and I'm joined in the studio today by Dana Collins from The Times. How are you, Dana?" "Great. Thanks for having me, Boyd. It's always nice. So, as usual, there is confusion in Congress. Any word on what's going on with our beloved monkeys trying to figure out how to pass a budget?" "Everything is the same. Everything is the same. Defense hawks want their way. The hard right wants to cut everything. The hard left wants to spend it all, and the middle wants its piece of the pie for all its pet projects. No one agrees on anything, and if Congress were a freeway, it would look like Los Angeles on a bad day. You know what they say, Dana. The opposite of pro is con. So the opposite of progress is Congress. She laughed and let out a cute snort. Oh my God, I can't believe I snorted on the radio, she moaned. As my next trick, I'll make milk come out of your nose. How are politicians like diapers? Both need to be changed regularly for the same reason. She shook her head. Okay, jokes aside, let's talk on the phone. On the first line is Doug from Springfield. What's going on in the world today, Doug? Hello, Boyd. I like your show. I'm sorry about your wife. Yes, me too. Boyd, what can we do to fix our broken system? Something has to change in this swamp you call Washington. Time limits and auditing their assets before and after, Doug. Maybe when politicians don't go to Washington to line their pockets, there will be real jobs. Dana asked, Do you think this will happen, Boyd? No. No politician on either side of the Esley will vote for this. Oh, some will say they support it, but they know it will never happen because it will never be put to a vote. She agreed and said, Guys like David Bridges think they can get away with whatever they want. They think they are invincible. I flinched when she mentioned it, but I didn't stop her. She continued, They crave power and wealth. They crave the attention of their subordinate men and women, bending over backwards to be the first to agree with them and tell them how wonderful they are. They come out with high moral principles and then have affairs. It's disgusting. Tell us how you really feel, I chuckled. Sorry if I take this too personally, she softened. Everything is as it is. My wife is a cheater. What can I do except lose money on her and the lawyers? A quick smile flashed across her face, but she quickly suppressed it. Anyway, on line 6 is Annie from Long Island. What's on your mind, Annie? Oh, Boyd, I love it when Miss Collins is on your show. You kids have such sweet chemistry. I laughed. I'm like a pinch of salt, Annie. I go well with everyone. Dana rolled her eyes, and this time couldn't hide her smile. Do you have a question, my dear Annie? Yes, it's an easy question, but it's for Miss Collins. Young lady, would you like to become a mother? The proverbial expression of bewilderment appeared on Dana's face, and she threw her hands up. Great question, Annie. Politics and my wife are boring. What's the answer, Dana? Also, Annie, you can't see it, but her face is bright red right now. I love children, Dana replied, avoiding the question, just like the politicians she covered. Annie chirped, You better, because Boyd needs to think about his adorable boy. Okay, I interrupted, ending the conversation. We love you, Annie. Thank you for calling. Looks like it's time to pay some bills. We'll be back soon. Oh my God, Dana exclaimed. It's going to be a fun day, I groaned. Rose gave us 2 thumbs up as if the broadcast was great. That may be true, but I didn't feel all that great. 3 hours later, I said, And see you tomorrow. Don't leave us. The on-air board went out and I threw my headphones on the table. Dana carefully hung hers on the hook opposite. Well, that was something, she said. I didn't expect little old ladies to roast me today, that's for sure. Hey, these little old ladies love me. I'm very popular in book clubs for septuagenarians. She giggled. I'm sure they are your bread and butter. Carefully. They also read newspapers. They begin to take a closer look at your comments and articles. Do I want to be a mother? What kind of question is this? I laughed as I packed my notebooks into my bag. The question is quite reasonable, and don't think that I didn't notice that you didn't answer it. I glanced at her and she frowned. I don't see myself in the role of a mother. I love children, I really do. I just don't see how I can find time for them with this job. Suddenly she became sad and said, Lord, forgive me. I already have everything. Don't worry about it, I said, interrupting her. I will say that children are not so bad. I'll pick mine up from kindergarten now, and we'll play with trucks. How can you be so cold-blooded, Boyd? Your marriage is falling apart, and you act like it's just another Tuesday. What do you want me to do? I can't curl up and cry. I have a child, a job. I have to control myself so that everything around me remains safe and sound. I control myself and continue to live, Dana. What else can I do? Don't know. I guess I expected more emotions. I laughed. Emotions are for weaklings. I didn't really believe it, and she saw right through it. She touched my cheek and frowned. Forgive me, Dana. I need to go to kindergarten. Thanks for coming on the show again. Anytime. If you need anything, call me. I'm serious. Anything. She smiled, and I left. Life went on, and a month later I was sitting in my lawyer's office waiting for Alicia to speak. Boyd, I'm so sorry. It was a mistake and... Alicia, I don't want to hear this. If you think that the reason for our divorce is that you cheated on me with this asshole a few days after we met, then you are sorely mistaken. Easy, my lawyer warned me when I got a little heated. Listen, yes, your sex with him is itself a reason for divorce, but you forget that you have returned to your bad habits from the moment I first filed for divorce. You were late, you lied, and you basically put your job before our marriage and our child. This is unacceptable to me, and you knew it. That's why you didn't talk to me when you took the job. Boyd, this was just supposed to be jury counseling. Yes, I heard that. Only it wasn't like that, was it? No, I didn't think so. You got carried away again. For you, it's like heroin. Honestly, judging by how quickly you sat on his lap, I'm pretty sure you've cheated on me before. Just sign the papers. I'm doing more than fair. I want primary custody, she said as tears rolled down her cheeks. I laughed and my lawyer said, Miss Taylor, this is absolutely unacceptable to us. There is no situation in which my client would refuse primary custody, and given your work schedule, we are quite confident that the judge will agree that this is in Michael's best interests and well-being. Damn it, Alicia. My investigator says you work 14 hours a day all week and haven't asked to see Mikey since you moved in a few weeks ago. Who are you kidding? I love him, she whispered. I know you love me. You just love your job more. You can see him whenever you want. I'm not going to be an asshole over this. I love you, Boyd. I really do. Yes? While fooling me, baby, I left the office and later found out that she had signed the papers. My marriage was over. 6 months later, Alicia was at Mikey's for the weekend, and I walked into the cigar lounge. How are you, Nick? I asked, approaching the counter. How are you doing, Boyd? The Monte Cristo number 2 box has arrived for you. I put it in your locker. Thank you. Are there many people today? No, just a few regulars and a hot chick who's been here a few times and just bought a membership. Cool. See you. I entered my code and entered the VIP room. The smell of cedar and stale cigar smoke was simply heavenly. I nodded to the guys I'd seen earlier but didn't see any hotties, so I headed to the cabinet to get my Cuban treats. Hello, Boyd. Long time no see. I smiled and took out a second cigar. Hello, Dana. Would you like to try a Cuban cigar today? I closed my locker and handed her the contraband. Thank you, she said. I kind of kept an eye on you. You're pretty bad at this, I said as we walked up to a couple of chairs. It's not difficult to find me, and you have my phone numbers. She frowned as she trimmed the end of her cigar. I'm a little nervous about this. She took an expensive lighter from her purse and set fire to 15 centimeters of aged tobacco. I laughed and blew on the orange ring around the tip of my cigar. What exactly makes you nervous? I wanted to invite you to dinner. Come on, I laughed. A woman who wears short skirts, crosses her legs, and clicks her heels to tease me is nervous when she asks me to have dinner with her? You are an amazing woman. She shook her head. Delicious, thank you. I nodded. Boyd, I've never really dated. There was no time. It was easy to tease you. I've never had a problem using sexuality to get what I want from men and some women. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. I didn't know she liked women. Stop it, pervert. I'm not into women. Wow, she can read minds. Noted. Listen, I'm prying into someone else's business here, and I don't want to get a dose of contempt for it. Yes. She exhaled white smoke and asked, What? Yes, I'll go to dinner with you. Will you go? She asked stupidly. So what? Do you think you're ugly or something? I asked. No, I do not know. As I already said, I'm not used to going on dates often. Okay, let's finish this and go across the street to that little Italian restaurant. After dinner, we were enjoying a glass of wine on my sofa when I asked, "So, do you have time to date me now? Or am I just a one-night stand for you?" She laughed. "No, haven't you heard that I don't work at the Times anymore?" "No, I probably missed it. Now I'm on television. You know this show, you were in it. There are a few of our ladies sitting on the couch with a guy or two." "Oh, sure. I love this show. It's like eye candy for us reporters." She laughed. "That's probably true, although I wore pantsuits twice last week. I would change the channel." We laughed together, and then she asked, "You like my legs, don't you?" "Oh, don't start that 'who am I' nonsense again. You know very well that I like your legs." "What about my feet?" she asked, turning around and placing her legs on my lap. I shrugged and put the wine on the table. "You're wearing jeans and socks today. Not the sexiest outfit." I stroked her foot, causing her to moan. "I didn't expect to see you today. I should have gone home and changed for you." "It is not necessary. Your jeans highlight your butt perfectly." "What about my face? Am I not beautiful?" "No, you are what we call ugly." "Scary?" she screamed. "Yes, well, you know. Everything is fine except the face." She tried to pull her legs away from me, but I held them. "Don't be angry. I'm just joking. You are an amazing woman." "Well, that's a little better." She took a sip of wine and asked, "Will you be offended if I ask you to take me to your bed?" "No, baby. I won't hold it against you." She rolled her eyes and reproachfully remarked, "You're ruining the mood, Mr. Comedian." "Well, then I'll have to fix it. Let's go." I took her to my bedroom where she went to the bathroom. Taking the opportunity, I checked the desk drawer for condoms. Then undressed. Only the table lamp illuminated the room as I sank onto the bed. My soldier stood in full combat readiness in anticipation of the fact that the beautiful journalist would finally join me. When the door to the bathroom opened, she did not enter the room, but stuck out her bare leg and slid her foot along the doorframe, giving me a beautiful show. "Fuck," I moaned, desperately wanting her. She walked around the doorframe as if on a pole and gracefully entered the room, naked as the day she was born. Her chest, which could hardly fit into a handful, heaved proudly. The scattering of her freckles beckoned me like a sailor looking into the night ski. "Do you approve?" she asked. "Hell yes. Come here, honey." She barely had time to sit down on the bed when our lips met and our tongues danced. It tasted like wine. My hand went down and squeezed her firm ass. "God, I can get used to this," she said, falling on the pillows. Her head's curls separated around. I kissed her forehead and asked, "Do you want it?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, do you want to get used to it? I am accepting applications for my girlfriend, and so far, the only contender is you." She stroked my chest and replied, "I would really like that. I have more free time now. If we think about the longer term, then I'm ready to become a mother." "Okay," I replied. "But first, let's see how you cope with the role of stepmother, okay?" I laughed, and she slapped my chest. "I'm not cheating," she whispered. "Me too," I said, and kissed her on the top of her head again. "In Dana, I think I have found a woman who cares about her family more than her job. Time will tell, but half the fun is finding out. After all, if we knew what awaited us in the future, life would be damn boring. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.